36th verse, chapter 4. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah sarvam jnanaplavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. That is the shloka that we'll have to learn starting today. This is a shloka that he reminds us about the sins, the papams that every one of us have accumulated. Most of them are already started paying out, in the sense like in our actions, in our thoughts, in the effects that we get. Those sins that we have accumulated. Sins are not necessarily, you can think of it as bundles of things that is there in the cloud, and then it need not be thought or visualized it that way. Sins are everyday actions that we perform and the results that we see in our life. We don't have to go somewhere to check our account as to how many papams I have, how many punyams I have. No need for that, because right in front of our eyes, we all experience that. If someone jokingly said, if you have a dream that a tiger is chasing you, then you have a little bit of papam. If that happens in real time, then you have more papam, right? So that is how it's relative. And these things are happening to us every day on an everyday basis, right? We are dealing with people, and good things happen to us, great things happen to us, worst thing happen to us, a little bit bad things happen to us. These are all pavams and the punyams that we are already experiencing it. Top of it, we do some actions, and we do not know whether that leads to pavam or punyam, and it goes around and round, and it has a dominoes effect all around, and later point it comes to haunt us. That is what is happening. Whether we are aware of it or not doesn't matter, but that is how things happen. The words that we speak, the actions that we do come back and hurt us. Maybe not right away, after a while, right? So that a person has done a lot of sinful actions and he is experiencing a lot of troubles already. Here Krishna in this verse says that even if you are the most worst of the sinners, he says that still that person, if he hops on to a boat, he talks about a boat in this verse, a ship, you can think of it. And this ship is the ship of divine knowledge, the knowledge about the divine, by practicing the karma yoga, by practicing that karma yoga that we have learned in the last few weeks, the jnana, the yajna, all those, he is just modeling it as a boat. If you get into that boat of divine knowledge, then that person crosses the ocean of sins. Even if that person has committed ocean of sins, then the moment that person gets into a boat called jnana plavena. Jnana plavena means a ship of knowledge, true divine knowledge. That is the only rescue for people who have been swimming in the world of sins. And how do we get onto that boat? The knowledge that he has been giving for the last few weeks. It can be born out of restraint from the indriyas, or it can be through yogic practices, the Ashtanga Yoga, including the internal purity, external purity, asanam, pranayamam, pratyaharam, dharanai, dhyanam, samadhi. So the 8 steps Ashtanga Yoga. Practicing that, or practicing the art of giving, or practicing the part of just pranayama. These are the things that we have learned. And that will lead to the true divine knowledge. And in the last verse, he mentioned that if you practice that prolonged, then you will see divinity. You will see me. That's what he said. You will directly encounter with me. You will have a direct encounter with me. And that is the divine knowledge, he says. The true knowledge about God. So all the knowledge that we have, today about divinity, about God, is theoretical knowledge. What we heard from our parents, from others, and all those things, we framed an image about God. Not the true knowledge. God, whenever someone says God, that is what it is, right? So that knowledge is not the true right knowledge, because now God cannot be thought about and put into some kind of a small knowledge, because his mind itself is limited and God is unlimited. How can anything can be thought about in this limited mind? And so that true knowledge will happen. And once that happens, when we practice that yajna, when we practice that path of the karma yoga, then that divine knowledge happens. It is not overnight, but it has to be practiced. And that happens, then everything else becomes clear in life. And that papams that we have been accumulating vanishes in a moment. And then all of a sudden, it feels like the sky is cleared. You might be wanting to go out, planning to go out on a trip. All of a sudden, the clouds get darker and darker, and apparently feels like it's going to spoil sport on the trip, let's say. But we sit hanging around what's going to happen. Finally, after a couple hours, the sky clears and we start seeing the blue sky again. We heave a sigh of relief. Oh my goodness, now I can head out, right? So that is how we feel. And that is the feeling that once you hop on to the divine knowledge, we'll be able to cross the ocean of sins. And at that time, sins, clouded mind gets cleared. How do you know that the sins are cleared? Our mind is a perfect indicator. When the mind becomes clear, crystal clear about everything that is happening around us, good or bad, about interactions with people, without wanting or not wanting. We all have some certain preferences when it comes to people, right? These people I like, these people I don't like, these people I wanted to interact with, have friendship with, these people I don't want to. Such preferences goes away. That is what he says, by sins are cleared. Because what is the indication that sins have gone? We don't have any preferences. Everyone all of a sudden becomes our people. I want them. A state where we can't look at people who offend us as our enemies. Even if we wanted to, The mind is not there. The mind is not attaching to any hatred or vengeance or bitterness. Imagine such a situation where people who are right there doing some harmful thing to us, and we know that for sure, and we are not inclined to express any dissatisfaction with that person, but instead we extend our hand of friendship to that person. That is the blissful state, and that is an indication that our mind is cleared of all sins. And that state is the state where divine knowledge has occupied our mind. That is the state where we have understood the true meaning of God. That is the state where we are with no confusion, but clarity only. Only clarity, only purity. No spot or speck of dust anywhere in our mind in terms of anything. That is where he says will happen. And that incidentally, Tiruvenkatam, Tirupati, we call it, right? That is also called Tiruvenkatam. That Venkatam, that meaning in Sanskrit means a place that burns the sins. That is what he precisely is going to say in the next verse, where the sins that we have accumulated will be burnt. We'll get to that verse next. Yataidhan samiddhognir bhasmasat kuruterjuna jnanagnih sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. This is verse number 37. Yataidhansi samiddhognir bhasmasat kuruterjuna jnanagnih sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Just like how firewood burns anything that you put on it into ashes, more specifically the wood that you put on the fire is burnt into ashes. Likewise, sins will be burnt in the Jnanagni. He calls it as Jnanagni. The fire of knowledge will burn all the sins. Jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. Bhasmasat, reduced to ashes. Jnanagni. Which one will Jnanagni will reduce to ashes? Which one? Sarva karmani. All reactions. That means all the positive and the negative reactions. You cannot expect some punyams at the end, right? That also should be burnt. So if somebody is doing something for punyam, then that is also not, your mind is hankering around punyams. That is also not correct. Neither papam nor punyam. Both of them will be burnt to ashes in the mind by the divine knowledge, by the fire of divine knowledge. The fire of divine knowledge, when it is burning within our Atman, within ourselves, that will consume papams and punyams. And so what is flowing out of that person, that individual, will only be pure, undetached actions. And that has nothing to do with any papam or punyam, because that person has already burnt the ill effect of the actions flowing from him or her. So for that, those thoughts should be burnt in that fire. Thoughts about anything, thoughts about personal benefits, personal growing, personal this, personal that, thoughts about fame, name, money, looks, anything. Such thoughts are gone, such thoughts are burnt. And when we are doing an action, that has nothing to do with any of these personal preferences. Thoughts about others, good behavior or bad behavior, thoughts about others, intentions, everything is wiped out. The action that that person performs is purely performing a yajna, sacrifice, a puja. That person is performing every action as a puja to that God. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not expecting even any prasadam of that. Anything, everything happens. Whatever the remains, remnants of that puja, we eat that. That is why we are offering food to God as a logical, as a more of a what to call a sign of yajna. When we prepare food, we offer to God, and He blesses that. And our intention is, you eat fully. It is you have given the food, and then I take the remaining. It shouldn't stop only with the food. The idea there is that is one of the actions that we do, and we should extend that action to everything else. The work that you do, giving it to you. Whatever the remnants remains of it, I eat it. So that comes out of that pure divine knowledge, and that fire of knowledge has the ability to burn. Thiruvenkatam, as I said, has the ability to burn all the sins that person has accumulated. That is the reason, no wonder that people have been taking trips, pilgrimage to Tirupati. So Tirupati was traditionally known as Thiruvenkatam. Thiruvenkatam, Venkatam, Venkateswara. Venkateswara, Venkatam means, Venkatam itself means burning the sins. Venkateswara means the Iswara, the Lord who actually burns the sins. That is Venkateswara. And when will that happen? Not just because this time we will go to Tirupati and then spend 3 days there and then come back. By that, it won't happen. Thought that He is the supreme divine divinity and I should offer myself to Him. That thought will cleanse the sins. No other God has been given a name as to one who can actually remove the sins. Only, one and only Venkateswara or Vishnu. He is the one and only who can actually clear the sins that has been accumulated by the person. No one else has been given such attribution. It can be Brahma or it can be Shiva. Nobody said that Shiva or Brahma or Muruga or that. Vishnu, Venkateswara has been given that. The reason is that all others will give other things, materialistic pleasures. Even Krishna himself, one of the verses mentioned before, right? I have created this system of gods and demigods. Agni, Varuna, Vayu, Indra, and other devatas. I have created them with certain powers to them. And when you go and ask them, do their asking, do their want, meet their needs, then they will give you few things. And I have established that kind of a factory where you go ask, you do some things and they will give you something. That is how I have established it. But since if you wanted to erase from your mind ill effects, you wanted to erase, the one and only person is Venkateshwara. That divine knowledge others cannot give. Others have other powers, but only Vishnu can give that power. All right. So in this verse, that is what we learn. Then we move on to the 38th verse. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate tat swayam yoga sansiddha yoha sansiddha kalenatmani vindati. Nahi jnanena sadrisham. Just like the purity of divine knowledge. There is nothing else in this world, Arjuna. Do not go behind anything else, asking for anyone else. There is no such thing in this world other than the pure divine knowledge, the pure divinity by knowledge that you acquire, that you achieve by continuously practicing the karma yoga. Continuously practicing the karma yoga, you attain the state called the pure divine knowledge, and that too with the help of a guru who can guide you the right path of karma yoga. You practice it, practice it, practice it. You attain the state where pure divine knowledge descends on you, and there is nothing else in this world that is as precious as that divine knowledge one acquires. So the divine knowledge is not, again, nothing to do with worldly knowledge. The divine knowledge is pure knowledge that is about the divinity. A person, me, for example, doesn't read any books, doesn't have to read any books, but she had the knowledge of divinity. So knowledge of divinity has nothing to do with material knowledge, worldly knowledge, but the knowledge about that supreme being, who is the controller of this universe, who is the one single force that creates, protects, and destroys, and then takes everything inside. When all the creation is destroyed, the entire universe goes inside that being, that supreme being. Knowledge about that supreme being has nothing to do with the worldly knowledge. Worldly knowledge about this material world will help earn money, make friendships, and be happy, and let you be happy. Other than that, worldly knowledge is of no use. In order to get that divine knowledge, this is not even needed, in fact. Divine knowledge doesn't say that you have to know about the worldly knowledge first. All it says is know about yourself. Because once you know about oneself, then that is the same as knowing about divinity also. Because that divinity is placed inside oneself. And within every one of us, that supreme divinity is present. So if that person ever says that I have understood myself totally, anyone for that matter, I know me 100% inside out, all emotions that happen inside me, all preferences I have, all likes and dislikes I have, all hates, all turn on points, all turn off points. I know about everything about myself. It has nothing to do with the world, about my behaviors, about my mind, about my Atman. That person has understood the divinity. So it is an inward journey. It's not an outward journey. For knowing about the material world, about how car works, about how laptop works, how to program, or how to write something, how to do something, how to earn money, everything is outward journey. Your mind has to go outward. But in divinity is always inward journey. You'll have to ask the questions inside. What is happening inside me? What can I do for this? Why do I react this way? Why can't I be calm at this time? Why should I get mad? What is making me restless? What is making me anxious? Why should that make me anxious? Everything is inward question. So that leads to divine knowledge, knowing about our true nature, one's true nature. And I cannot do question you, and you cannot question me. One has to question oneself, because we know the truth, the hidden secrets inside ourselves. For what all things that we get mad about, what all things that we get depressed, what all things that make us happy or sad, what all things we like, what all things we do not like. Why? We know that, but we don't, in fact, we don't know. We don't even know at times what all. That also we don't know. All of a sudden we get mad and then we think that, oh, yeah, I should not have gotten mad. I never knew that I got upset with such a thing, right? So what all things that makes us, and why we behave such way, also we do not have idea about it. Maybe the food that we eat, maybe some kind of stored ideas about some things, about these people, about these situations that is triggering us to behave such a certain way. We do not know. Those are the questions that we'll have to ask within ourselves to get answers. The more we ask about ourselves, the more we become knowledgeable about ourselves. The more we become knowledgeable about ourselves, the more clear things become in this world. The more clear the outside world is to us, the much better we will react or act or respond. And the much better we respond and act, the less the sins we do in this world, in this birth, so that we don't add up to the already accumulated sins in our mind. That's the reason that we are doing this exercise, right? Asking about, interrogating about ourselves, introspection about ourselves, so that we remove some of the accumulated thoughts about ourselves, incorrect thoughts about ourselves. Why do you add more to it, right? The clarity happens, the more clear the world becomes to us, the much better we'll be able to appreciate the nuances in this world, the smaller things in life. Have you ever observed a nice, small fly flying from nowhere, going slowly and sitting on a hibiscus flower? One of the petals, and then slowly descending inside. The reason I mentioned that is such level of detail these days, most of us, we are not having time or energy to pay attention to that. And that is a beauty, nature's beauty. How flowers enjoy the flower or a morning walk, or the nice chirping of birds in the morning. We have lost all those things. So all those will reduce much of our stress that we have accumulated to ourselves these days, right? If we start enjoying such smaller details to life, we are not able to do it because mind is not clear. And in order for the mind to be clear, we need to do some work about our own things. What is clogging? Then the mind will be clear, then we will be able to engage and learn, and the eyes and ears will become much more sharper. They will start processing more information from the outside world, and they will be able to take much better decisions in this world. The more better decisions we take, the much better we feel about ourselves. Right? The more better we feel ourselves, the more we start knowing about ourselves. Oh, these kind of things make me happy. Oh, this I have not known. And so the whole process becomes more exciting. The spiritual journey itself should be an exciting journey. Most people will take it up because it reduces stress for me. right? Why are you doing meditation? It reduces stress. Or it is the thing that I learned from my childhood. So that's why I pray to God. I recite stotras. Spiritual journey need not necessarily be, it can be exciting. Once we start going with that introspective mind of knowing about, exploring about ourselves, exploring about this world is being created by that supreme being and given to us. There are so many hidden treasures that we don't even know, many things that we don't even know. And how and when are we going to explore that? We have been stuck in a constant flux. If you look at it, anything happens, we react to it, and the pattern we react is also same, no modification to it. Lord, 10 years back, I yelled at my wife for not doing a thing, for not probably, cooking the delicious meal, whatever that I wanted. I said delicious. Even now, if I don't see that deliciousness in the food, I yell. My pattern has not changed at all. Then we are not improving as a human inside. Right? So such patterns we can break only when we ask ourselves and know about ourselves better. And these are part of the karma yoga. By asking about ourselves, by knowing about ourselves, and by doing the actions. I'm doing this action, but all of a sudden I have this thought in my mind that I'm doing to myself and only to promote myself. What am I doing? Let me wait. Ask myself, why am I doing this? Right? Any action for that matter. Why am I doing this thing first? It can be preparing food for my kid, for example. But step back and then ask ourselves, why am I doing this? With what thought am I doing it? Is this the right thought that I should hold when I'm doing this action? Everything is an introspection, and then we observe the results. How do I react when this happens? Why do I react the way that I do? Why am I getting mad? Why is that person getting mad? Did I say anything wrong? Trace back the path of my own behavior. Instead, most of us are, I won't say most of us, but many people in this world are good at introspecting others' behavior. If you look at it, that comes quite natural to many people. That no, he's not correct because that thing that triggered this, and because of this person got the hurt, and that person got hurt. They went and did that, and that triggered this. We are able to analyze very well externally about others' behavior, about others' actions, others' responses to it, but not our own. That is the fundamental cause for concern, right? When we are having so much of analytical mind, we should go turn that needle inside and ask ourselves the right questions. And then we can fix many things within ourselves. Then that will set the stage for divine knowledge. Divine knowledge is, beginning is to knowledge about us. Okay. So let's move on to the next question, next verse, which is 39. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparah sanyatendriyah jnanam labdhva param shantim achirenadhikachati. So this is again an important point where he talks about the qualities of a sadhak. Sadhak means we are all, right? People who practice the sadhana towards divine knowledge. This person, each one of us, have to have these qualities. Shraddhavan, that person should be sincere in his job, in pursuit of divine knowledge, in practicing the karma yoga. Insincerity is not going to lead anywhere. If we are going to practice few things just to make others happy, not myself, I am not that much excited or anything about, but I wanted to just do it because I heard about it, or I was told by others that this is good, so I am practicing it. And so I will do it with That is also okay, others told, but doing it with sincerity. Right? Doing it with sincerity would mean that no cheating in whatever that we practice. No cheating ourselves. It's not no cheating others. There is a difference between spirituality and other worldly things, right? Worldly things, when you say cheating, it's you cheat others. But in spirituality, cheating is the cheating stops with yourself first. Everything starts with you and stops with yourself. It doesn't even go outside. We don't even talk about others. We are the one who is in the center of this universe. And if the assumption is, if that person, whoever that is, if that person fixes the problem in his or her mind, then the problem doesn't exist outside. Actually, all the problems that we are talking about, maybe if I ask you, you will tell a list of problems. If you ask me, I'll tell a list of problems, right? If you ask spiritually realized people, they would say this: there is no problem outside. All problems are inside your mind. They always used to say that, right? We say that, what are you talking about? This is a right problem right happening in front of me. Well, you are seeing that as a problem. That is why you are seeing a problem. It's just an event that is happening. That is how I'm seeing it. And so that is why I'm not seeing a problem there. It is an event that is happening. Two people are just quarreling. For you, it is bothering. You see, it's a problem. To me, two people are quarreling. After some time, they are going to become friends. Or after a few years, they are going to perish from this world. Where is the problem? If that is a problem, it has to exist forever. But it is ephemeral. It's like a bubble. Buddha, it's just a bubble and it just vanished. Where is the problem? That is how they say it, right? So that is why everything starts with that human and it ends with that human also. So he says that if you are sincere, cheating, you cannot cheat yourself when you are performing any actions. Be sincere to you. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. Labhate is he wins. Labham labhate, right? He wins, he or she. If that person is sincere, that person will win jnanam. Jnanam is a divine knowledge. All is being asked is faithful to yourself. Faith is important. Shraddhavan is faithful and sincere to yourself. Then that person will attain the divine knowledge. Tatparah sanyatendriyaha. When that person sincerely, by controlling the senses, sanyatendriyaha. Sanyata, that means controlled, to control. Indriya, senses. So everything starts with that. The 5 senses are our first 5 enemies. Enemies are not outside. To any one of us, enemies are right within our own body. They are the ones who cause, they are the ones who get the image of a thing that is happening and bring the news to our mind and creates the confusion in our mind. And so that person, whoever who's interested in attaining that knowledge, should be willing to control their senses. Then that person definitely, and sincere also, sincerely practices the controlling of the senses, then that person labhate jnanam. That person wins knowledge. Jnanam labdhva param shantim. Then we ask Krishna, what do we get if I get divine knowledge? And he says, jnanam labdhva. If you get that divine knowledge, param shantim, that jnanam will help you win the supreme peace, the eternal bliss that people call, right? That supreme peace, That person is peace with oneself and also with the rest of the world. We won't complain about anything that is happening around us. That person is at absolute peace and accepts everything as is, as it is happening. And I'm part of it. No one to be blamed. Everything is happening as per that one person's directions. There is nothing to be blamed, no one to be blamed for anything that is happening around me, to anyone or to me. That state of mind is the Param Shantim. Achirena, Achirenadhikachati. And we ask him, when will we get it? And he says that without any delay, Achirena, as soon as you are sincerely practicing and able to control your indriyas and practice the yogam, the karma yoga, then that divine knowledge descends in you. You attain that divine knowledge. Once that divine knowledge descends in your being, then you absolutely will experience that perfect blissful state of supreme peacefulness. That will you'll get it instantly, immediately. So that is what we all are behind. There is one thing that we all have spent so much of time in this Bhagavad Gita or anything for that matter, for temple activities, for spirituality, in spirituality or any such thing, that is this supreme blissfulness. That fruit is that. Right? Krishna had said that do not look at the fruit, right? But this is the perfect blissful fruit, which is perfect bliss, absolute peacefulness. And we all are learning this, practicing karma yoga. With that, what do we get? Non-confrontational mindset, to say the least. To say the least, at least we'll get much bigger than that, but that has to be experienced by the person. But at least for now, for us to understand, that mindset is the non-confrontational mindset, where to me or to others, anything happens, anything happening, I do not have any complaints about myself, about others, on anything that is happening around. In fact, I'm perfectly in harmony with myself and with the rest of the world. Can any one of us say right now that I'm in perfect harmony with myself and the rest of the world? At any time. Right now, probably for a few seconds we will say, until the time that our kid or our spouse asks or does something that upsets us, maybe most of us will say that I am at perfect harmony. That is not harmony. That is just that we haven't, our true nature hasn't been woken up yet. It's in dormant state. It is just waiting. And at that time, everyone will say that I am at peace. I am the best person in this world. The first moment somebody tips off that balance by just doing an action that is uncalled for or something that we do not accept, then that is when our true colors will just open up. That is when our nature will show up, right? So then that time, if that person is still holding on to the harmony and saying that even with this, I am not going to get mad because I have the perfect knowledge now established. That is the state that he is talking about. That is the state that we all have to practice, because everything is a practice, right? We all have to strive towards that, continuously thinking about that state of mind. And how can we get there? That is the steps that he has laid out in order to get there, where you can be with peace and harmony within yourself and with the rest of the world. Practice the path of karma yoga. And by that, Shraddha, practice it with sincerity. Shraddhavan. And then try to restrain your indriyas instead of just letting them go their own way, instead of just trying to indulge, because then we are not taking charge of our own uh, being. The moment that we are letting our eyes and ears and our indriyas to go in their own ways and indulge in the ways that they wanted to indulge in, then we are not taking charge of our own being, right? Then we already lost the war against the indriyas. But a person who is trying to control that indriyas and to keep them on leash, then that person is winning the war against the indriyas. And that person is moving closer to that ideal bliss, the peaceful state. 40th verse. Agnyascha shraddadhanascha sanchayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti na paro na sukham sanchayatmana. Okay, what happens to a person who is not having knowledge? Agnya is person who doesn't have divine knowledge, who is ignorant, literally, person who is ignorant. And if that person, besides being ignorant, is also ashraddha, ashraddadhanaha. But that means without faith also. That person doesn't have faith also. And that person doesn't have divine knowledge as well about oneself. And the person is not obviously practicing the karma yoga with any faith. Then what happens? Sanchayatma vinashyati. Then that atma, that person falls down big time. Vinashyati, falls down. Nayam lokosti naparo nasukham sanchayatmana. And then that besides that person is doubtful also. Because of the doubtfulness, that person is also not sincere. And that person is not having any faith, right? So the doubtfulness is in terms of this. Will it work? These are all big stories. I will do what I can, but I won't, right? This is not going to work, or that will not work, or I cannot do it. Maybe that is true. I cannot do it. Such kind of stories are all not having any faith, right? But instead, I wanted to do it because this is what is right for me, and I wanted to get to that state. Even though I do not understand right now, I have the Shraddha in my mind. Let me practice it. Then I will get it, right? So that person slowly builds it. On the opposite, neither Shraddha nor Jnana, but doubt. Then that person falls. And Nayam Lokosti Naparo, that means neither in this birth, neither in this world, nor in the other world, ever that person is ever going to get any happiness whatsoever. Nasukham samshayatmana atmanaha. Nasukham, no sukham, that means no happiness is ever going to be there for that person. Because we are all like that soccer ball. If you look at it in this world, we are all kicked all over the field. If you look at it, right? We go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. It's all being just kicked. One situation to other situation to the other situation. Between the transit from one person, one kick to the other kick, we think we are happy because we are just moving, right? Only to be encountered with another kick from some person. then we are again moving in different direction. Throughout the field, we run just like the soccer ball being kicked all around by the players. And finally, the ball punctures or just is retired. And then a new ball is brought in. Again, it continues, right? What is that is because of lack of trust and lack of dedication. Shraddha can also be defined as dedication, not willing to dedicate because not having the trust in the first place. That Krishna, okay, is he first lived? People will ask such questions, right? Was there any person called Krishna who really lived? Or is it all creations of Vedavyasa? Maybe Vedavyasa might have lived because he has written the Mahabharata. And then he has written the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe he's an author. So he wrote it. In the name of God, he might have wrote it maybe. What is the guarantee that Krishna lived or all these Pandavas in fact lived or any such is a doubtful mind? Then that person definitely falls. Whether you can believe or not, but going behind that divine divinity is lost because that is the very root. Faith is the very fundamental building block of spirituality, right? If that itself is gone, then dedication are now naturally is not going to come, because we all are going to dedicatedly do the things that we believe in. If the fundamental belief is not there, we will not dedicate ourselves into that. That is the reason that Shraddha is important, and then dedicating oneself into this task of performing the Karma Yoga. In fact, Karma Yoga is not that hard. It's not asked. He is providing multiple ways with which we can actually do it. Whichever way that suits us, we can actually choose that and dedicate ourselves into that path, and then make sure that go in that path fully, right? It can be Ashtanga Yoga path, or it can be service path, or it can be pranayama path, or it can be multiple ways we have actually discussed in the last few weeks. Do not repeat it there again, right? So that path with dedication, if that person didn't do it, then that person is going to be going round and round and round and round with a delusion of happiness, but never will find eternal happiness ever, is what the shloka is trying to say. 41st verse. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchinna sanchayam atmavantam na karmani nibadhnanti dhananjaya. Hey Dhananjaya, hey Arjuna, nibadhnanti. Nibadhnanti is the na nibadhnanti. That person will not be bound. Binding. Nibadhnanti means binding. Na nibadhnanti. That person will not be bound. Is not bound. From what? From ropes or something? No. From the karmas, from the sins or any such thing, papas or punya. The karmas is not binding that person. Which person? That person who he says that who has dedicated their body, mind, and soul to Supreme. That is the dedication, the Shraddha, right? In performing the Karma Yoga. If a person dedicates oneself to eternal God and then performs the Karma Yoga, that person's actions is not bound by sin or good deeds. Right? Good karma and bad karma will not bind that person. Yoga sanyasta karmanam. Those people who perform that Karma Yoga with a total dedication unto God, when we say total dedication, it is body, mind, words, and soul, totally dedicated to Him, without any wavering of mind. Then that person breaks away that person breaks away all the bad karmas and as well as good karmas. And that person should be beyond all doubts. Beyond all doubts, performs that actions, and that person is not bound by any actions. The reason he is saying this verse is he's trying to pull Arjuna into the battlefield, right? In other words, he's trying to pull rest of us into the path of karma yoga. So he says that Dhananjaya, don't have to worry about it. If you are going on a war with them, that's not going to, as long as you are dedicating yourself into the path and dedicating your heart, mind, and soul, heart, mind, and soul to the Supreme Lord. Is what? 41st verse, 42nd verse. That's the last verse in this chapter. Tasmad ajnana sambhutam hrutstam jnanasinatmanah chitvainam sanchayam yogam atishthotishhtha bharata. He says, Bharata, Arjuna, uttishhtha, get up and fight this war. Atishttha, by taking shelter in the karma yoga. Yogam atishttha, take shelter in the karma yogam that you are doing. Because you are doing a karma yoga, actions are not going to bind you. Chitva inam, that means cut away, cut loose with the knowledge of, with the sword of knowledge. Cutting away the karma, you need a sword. What is the sword you use? The sword of knowledge. Use your sword of knowledge to cut the karmas, the bad karma or good karma, by performing the actions in a truly dedicated way. Then you will be able to distance yourself from all the ill effects of the karmas. So, therefore, he begins with the therefore, ajnana sambhutam. Born out of ignorance in your mind, Arjuna. Everything is born out of ignorance in your mind. Cut that ignorance with the sword of knowledge and get up and do this job. With that, he finishes chapter 4. We will continue with our 5th chapter next week and see how it goes. Sriyah Kantaya Kalyana Nidaye Tinam Sri Venkata Nivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.